Hi, everyone. I am David Lipton from The Reckoning, July 4th, 2030. Welcome to our 15th in a series of weekly podcasts. This episode is about either voting for or against a party or a person, or some combination of the two. I have a special request. If you have enjoyed my podcasts, please subscribe and refer them to your friends and colleagues. To vote for or against, that is the question. Regrettably, many elections are not about policies or their actual consequences. Elections have become little more than mudslinging contests, where the dredging up of a candidate's old mistakes and off-color comments or actions have become grist for the political mill. This is especially true of our 2024 presidential contest. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff. The chaff is what each party wants you to think. That is the GOTV, get out the vote, and catnip material that each party wants its voters to focus on. The wheat is what you want to think and what your needs are and what the needs of the republic are. No discussion of separating the wheat from the chaff makes sense without referring to the persistent 42 to 42% divide between the Republicans, represented by the red, and the Democrats, represented by the blue. The long-standing political clash between parties influences what each side considers the wheat and the chaff. Predictably, what one side considers the most important issue, the wheat, the other side sees as a mere talking point, the chaff. Both accuse the other party of either lying or misleading the voters. Examples of chaff are the following. The other guys are untrustworthy and weird. The vice president speaks in word salads beyond the first two sentences. And her running mate is the Minnesota governor who buckled in the face of lawlessness in his own towns and cities. Political chaff is all about personalities, not policies. Such talk is all about making arguments ad hominem aimed at getting out one's voters to vote against the other side and at the same time make their supporters giddy at the prospect of doing so to prevent the ruin of the country. It's all nonsense and treats voters as useful idiots to retain power for the two parties for the next 4 years. Are you a useful idiot? Of course not. It's the other guys. I suggest we ignore, say, 95% of what the candidates and the press say about the election. Are they really going to walk the talk or just badmouth their opponents and hope you take one of their policies, such as abortion rights or getting America to stand tall again, as your main issue and run with it to Election Day? Let's adopt an approach different from what the political parties want us to do and consider our own needs and wants as well as focus on the larger interest of the sustainability of the republic. The focus is on us and our republic. It's all about addressing questions to ourselves, quite apart from what others want us to do. Here are 4 approaches. 1, the platform, that's the values and the policies. The other part of that is the personality. Does the person have gravitas and likability? Second, one's attitude towards governments. You want them to get bigger or smaller. 3, the involvement of the United States abroad. Should it be more or less? And 4, the sustainability of the American Republic itself. Let's address the first area. First, ask yourself if you are primarily attracted by the personality or the platform. Perhaps both. Am I attracted or repelled by that person? Leaving aside what I feel about the candidate, do I think their judgment will be sound and beneficial to me and others? Do I accept or reject their values, and why? These questions also apply to a political stand on issues and policies. They apply to the politicians, and they also apply to ourselves. Second, do you want to be more reliant on government programs or on your own choices? Do you see governments as regulating or interfering in your affairs? Do you want that student loan? Do you really need it? Do you want to be dependent in whole or in part on government largesse, be they cash benefits or tax breaks? Third, should our nation's involvement abroad expand or contract? After all, who cares what happens abroad? Are we talking about commercial or military involvement abroad? If we do not engage with nations abroad, some other nation will, and likely to our disadvantage. How much of our resources and energy do we want to commit abroad? Fourth area, do we care about the economic and financial sustainability of our republic, not only for ourselves, but for future generations? This involves external, factual benchmarks of the results of what we are doing and how we live right now. My podcast devotees know very well of what I speak, namely our half-century practice of creating $3.30 of debt for every dollar of GDP produced and consumed. They also know of the declining productivity rates from 2.8% average to a 0.15% over 50 years. It does not matter whether we approve of these results or data at all. Facts can be stubborn things, and they affect what we are able to do. Let's be clear about these questions. I do not propose to suggest answers to them. Rather, I urge my listeners to take personal ownership of the questions. Take your answers into the voting booth or the ballot box. Forget about what politicians and third parties, as the press or public personalities, may want you to do and think. It's a perennial challenge that is always out there for each and every voter in our republic. This brings us to the other related issue of the sustainability of our republic. This is the topic of our next podcast, and it's a very important one. Many of us are very interested in the sustainability of the environment and the planet. Well, I say to my listeners, let's be concerned about the sustainability of our republic. Goodbye for now, and thank you for listening in today. Do remember to subscribe to my podcasts and refer them to your friends and colleagues. You will hear from me, David Lipton, in a week's time. You can access my ideas and thoughts by visiting Amazon.com and search for my ebook, The Reckoning, July 4th, 2030.